This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo, giving you the inside track on all the big talking points from Anfield.
A very good afternoon and welcome to this Friday edition of the Liverpool Echo's Blood Red podcast, brought to you from our offices in the heart of Liverpool city centre. Big weekend ahead with the Reds due to play Manchester City and Anfield on Sunday. I've got to tell you, I've got that Friday feeling. I wonder if my guests today have as well. I'm joined today by the Anton Deck of Liverpool FC Discourse. It's tall Paul Gorst and the evergreen Ian Doyle. Ian, have you got that Friday feeling?
I'm just trying to work out which one we'd be between Anton Deck, I'll be honest.
Well,
I think you'll be the Geordie.
I still don't know which one's which after all these years.
Ant's the taller one, so we'll have to give that role to...
Yeah, I suppose so.
To Gorsty.
So that makes me a bit of a shorty, which I'm not really, am I, to be honest?
Well, you're in good company with me, so don't worry about that.
Hang on, how tall are you?
5'8".
I'm 5'11".
Somewhere in the middle. You're an in-betweener. That's a different show.
Yeah.
Have you got the Friday feeling? That was my question.
No, because I've not finished work yet. When I've finished, I will have.
Well, hopefully being in this room with me and Gorsty will bring up your Friday feeling levels. What about yourself, Gorsty? Are you feeling good about Friday?
No, not overly. Not overly.
You know,
Spend too much time with Doyle. He's been increasing down to his level and beating me on experience.
I'd like to point out, I thought that the Echo offices were in Manchester because that's where that's why I read all the time on social media when I get told where I work when I'm in Liverpool and I get told I'm in Manchester, really.
Well, you're not. I can confirm that. All the magic happens here in Liverpool, not down the East Lancs.
Correct.
So we can put that one to bed well and truly. Well, you know, a lot of people tune into this programme to feel better about themselves, so I'm sure we can get that Friday feling by the end of the show.
It's desperate for the Friday feeling, isn't it?
Exactly. Who tunes in to feel better about themselves?
I'm not being, I'm not trying to plug crunchies or anything.
I was just about to say, I can get a crunchy if you want.
Exactly.
I thought you might get that reference.
Well,
in a man of a certain vintage.
If of a certain vintage, yeah. I was going to call you the St. Greavesy of Liverpool FC Discourse, but would only be appealing to a very minimal demographic.
Before my time, yeah. Although, listen to this, right? I was watching the Big Match Revisited recently, and it was Tottenham against Chelsea from 1975. Oof. And halfway through the second half, Tottenham fans start singing "You'll Never Walk Alone."
Oh, yeah, that used to happen all the time. That used to happen all the time. 70s, all United fans have been doing it.
Have they?
Yeah. It's only an 80s thing that it became just Liverpool.
Really, yeah. Gobsmacked.
Yeah, well, a lot has changed in football at that time.
Just the 51 years since that game.
You're there, right?
That's a good opinion piece for you. Bring You Never Walk Alone back at Tottenham. Yeah. We'll speak to our colleagues at football.london and see if they're up for that. But before we know it, Friday will be over and that feeling will have dispersed. So you will have a day off before heading to Anfield.
He hasn't.
Well, no day off. Of course, he's never got the Saturday off, has he? It's unbelievable. Must speak to the powers that be about his rota. But assuming you're working Sunday, Manchester City at home. City 8 points above Liverpool, second in the table, determined not to mount a serious title challenge by the looks of it. But by that very token, Liverpool have let their Champions League qualification spot slip in recent weeks. So how do you see this one playing out, Ian?
Man City, as you say, have done very well to not challenge Arsenal for the title. Looks like Arsenal are going to win it by default through being the least worst team of the league rather than the best, which you could argue is the same thing, but I prefer to look at it as on my way of describing it.
Shape it how you will.
Indeed, yeah. I actually watched a lot of City's game against Newcastle on Wednesday, yeah. Went for a pint, obviously. It was just on.
Stout or
no?
Really?
Cruz Campo.
Cruz Campo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, St. Helens finest. And first of all, I was surprised. I wasn't surprised by how bad Newcastle were because they were very much like they were against Liverpool in the second half, very open and just giving away stupid goals. But City, you can tell it's not quite there. They're a little bit like Liverpool in the sense that you feel as though if it all goes right on the day, they could beat anybody. But different to Liverpool, I suppose, is that because of the defensive injuries they've had at centre-back, is that Newcastle still got quite a few chances. They should have scored at least. They got the one. They could. I know it's the game state means that City were always ahead and they were always very comfortable by scoring so early on in that game. But Newcastle still had a lot of chances. I think Liverpool will get chances against Man City and a fair few. It will be one of these ones where Arne Slot said recently wasn't it, before the Karabakh game? He says, look, we're doing okay, but we just need to do better in both boxes. And if we do that, then we'll have a good season, which I know it sounds like a straightforward thing to say.
David Moyes says Manchester United must improve in crossing, tackling, shooting, defending.
But you kind of know what he means. You know what he means by that. And lo and behold, they had 2 games where they did do that. Because you could look at it and go, well, they've scored 10 goals. So they've obviously done quite well in the opposing area. But also the first half an hour, which you would have mentioned earlier this week, against Newcastle, is where they defended the set pieces pretty well. They obviously conceded the goal to Anthony Gordon, but that's not really been the issue, has it? It's been the set pieces, which that's where they've improved, and they ended up scoring one at the end as well. So with City, I think City have probably been better going forward overall than Liverpool this season, but they've probably just been since the injuries recently, they've been just as bad when they've been bad defensively and giving up chances. And if Liverpool can get their shooting boots on, as they have done for the last 2 games at home, and the Anfield crowd can be behind them, which you would imagine they will be, that it will be difficult for City, and it'll probably end the title race. But also, you said City are 8 points behind, ahead of Liverpool. If Liverpool win, they're only going to be 5 points behind them. And then it's like, well, hang on, could they reel in City? And then there's a massive scrap, isn't there, for those Champions League places?
Well, you're right that City have scored more goals. They've scored 49. They're actually the top goal scorers in the league. But by that same token, they've also conceded a fair few, but their record is better than Liverpool's overall. So they've scored 49, conceded 23, whereas Liverpool have scored 39 and conceded 33.
Well, that'll be why they're above them in the table.
And that does explain, that does explain, in very simple terms, which I'm quite keen on, is why they're second in the league. But I suppose my question to you then, Gorst, is what sort of a game is this going to be then? Is it going to be an open game where teams are going to be, sort of being adventurous in the search of goals, or is it going to be a bit more of a nip and tuck chess match?
No, they're always good games, aren't they? In terms of the spectacle, the quality on offer, and I think Liverpool fans will turn up for this one. I think there's been, I think me and you had this debate, didn't we, Dory, about the Saturday night games? You're not too keen on them generally, and it's probably not great working some midnight. But
point of view, yeah.
The consistency of the atmosphere for those 8 o'clock games on a Saturday really helps Liverpool, and I thought the fans were good against Newcastle. It'd be a similar sort of thing on Sunday afternoon against City. It's always a huge game. City, they've won once in 23 years at Anfield, and that was behind closed doors. So even for all the billions that they've spent in the Sheikh Mansour era, they haven't been able to get a win at Anfield, a proper win with a full crowd. So I think Liverpool have got to use that to their advantage. And I think what will happen in terms of the title is Liverpool will get a good result and pretty much hand the title to Arsenal, who play Sunderland at home on Saturday afternoon. So,
well, it's the league wrapped up.
Yeah, I mean, it's the last chance to win, really, for City, isn't it? Particularly if Arsenal have already won. So they might have to come out a little bit more than what they normally would. And then that could create the sort of space that Liverpool look to exploit. And when Liverpool have been at their best this season is when the other team has tried to match them, stride for stride in a football game. It's the sort of direct physical stuff that's been Liverpool's Achilles heel. So, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one. But the sort of game where Liverpool tend to show up and the game plan of the opposition should help Liverpool. But, probably... in terms of the home games, it's probably the most difficult of the home games, you'd suggest, Man City?
Well, they'll have to do it without a regular right back because Jeremy Frimpong is still out injured. Conor Bradley, as we know, is out long term. Arne Slot doesn't look like he fancies Calvin Ramsey. So the question is, who do you play at right back? Do you continue with Dominic Szoboszlai, or he has got a couple of other options? He's got Curtis Jones, he's got Endo. What do you reckon?
He's not going to play them. You haven't mentioned Joe Gomez, and he could be back in training tomorrow, so he could be one that's back, and he'd go straight in. It's not as if he's had a long injury absence. He took a bang on his hip, and it's just a matter of getting over that.
Maybe a little bit of bluff from Arne Slot then in his press conference the other day, because he did say we might make the bench, help us out if we need it.
Didn't say that, did he?
It sounded like he said something like that, yeah, from what I can remember.
He didn't say that, though, did he?
Did he not?
Don't know, I wasn't there. You were there.
Yeah, well, I think that's right. Yeah.
It's in my article. So, unless you want to report me to Ipso,
did he actually
that's
say
what
bench?
He said.
Did he actually say help us out from the bench, or did he just say help us out? Did he say help out the team?
He suggested that he wouldn't be ready to start.
No. So I asked him, what were his actual words?
Let's bring up the article. While you discuss that, I'll bring up the article.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he started, because okay, it has only been 2 weeks, but we know Joe is not someone who just sort of bounces back straight away, is he? Even when he has a knock, it does take him a fair bit of time, and he seems to like Szoboszlai there, doesn't he? Even though I've got reservations over utilising the player who's been your best player all season out of position, but needs must, I guess, because like Rich says, Calvin Ramsey's not going to get a look in, is he? Even in the cup games now, really, you'd be hard pushed to make a case for him. So yeah, I think it might just be Szoboszlai with Joe Gomez on the bench if needed at centre back and or right back. Have you?
I'm just bringing that up right now. I'll ask another question while I do that. Are Liverpool losing something by having Szoboszlai in the back four rather than being legs in midfield?
Well, yeah, obviously. But I mean, this is no new debate. I think people also need to get their heads around the fact that Calvin Ramsey's not going to be playing, and we've picked up on this last week, wasn't it? I think we were talking about it. A player who could have got out on loan this week, and nobody really came in for him, which perhaps, unfortunately for him, might be his standing at the moment. But he's still a young player, and we did all of this the other week, to be honest. So yeah, you're losing a bit with Szoboszlai, but you're gaining in the sense that here's a player who can still do a reasonably good job at right back, and there are enough players to play elsewhere in the team. So, and we saw that against Newcastle, where they won 4-1 with Szoboszlai playing at right back. So.
It looks like they may have to do it again, because in his press conference on Thursday, Arne Slot said, with Joe, that was my Dutch impression, I won't do that again. With Joe, we have a little bit of hope that he might train on Saturday, so not available to start.
Oh, did he say that?
But maybe available to help the team if needed during the game.
Fair enough then. So I didn't hear that big sub said it wasn't there. So
I will accept your apology in the form of fair enough.
Yeah. That's as much as you're going to get.
That feels like as big a win as I could hope for. I floated the idea the other week of playing Andy Robbo on the opposite side. Not into that?
Don't like the sound of that. No.
What's the point?
Unbalanced.
What's the point?
Millionaire football can't use his weak foot.
What's the point? If you're going to put a player out of position, put one who can actually kick with that foot.
Well, it's nothing new, this though, is it? Rob Jones used to play at left back, didn't he?
How long ago was that?
It was about 1994.
Exactly.
Look, we may have moved on, but people have still got the same limbs, essentially, when they play football. So
I don't like that. No. It's it unbalanced the team, and at least Szoboszlai's played there a lot, hasn't he? He's probably played half the season there. In all honesty, but so sort of toss up the minutes of the season, a lot of them will be at right back. Not an ideal situation, but it's probably the best of a bad lot of options really at the moment. So yeah, I think he will start there. And I don't think we probably ever see Watara at right back, will we? Even though he's done a little bit of a job here or there, but feels like he's now either defensive midfield or centre back.
Yeah, I don't think he doesn't turn very quickly for me, Endo. So I think in the modern Premier League, that's a bit of a challenge, isn't it, with some of the wingers that you come up with?
He did okay against Karabag, but that's because Karabag failed to recognise that it was a 32-year-old defensive midfielder playing right back. We played for about 7 minutes in the first game of the season against Bournemouth, and they did realise it, and Slot straight away went, not having that, and that was the end of that.
I think that's fair enough.
But I think Ryan Gravenberch's got a lot of qualities that would make him a good centre-back as well, though. But again, it's you sort of cutting your nose off to spite your face, aren't you? If you put it, okay, needs must at times, but you'd want him in midfield as well. So, Liverpool are really down to the bare bones, aren't they, at the back? And that brings us back to this idea that, they were after Gertrude from Leipzig, obviously on loan at Sunderland, probably left it a bit too late to arrange what would have been a complex deal.
Like Gahey in the summer, things didn't come to a head quick enough there, and obviously he's going to be playing for the opposition at the weekend. Might not be greeted particularly warmly by the home supporters, I would suspect.
It's not his fault though, is it?
I don't know. I mean, if he wanted to join Liverpool, I reckon he could have waited till the end of the season and joined for free if he really wanted to join Liverpool.
Yeah, maybe. But I think we're going over old ground with Mark A now, aren't we? Liverpool felt that the finances involved for a player who would have been out of contract in 6 months was probably ridiculous, really. He's on an obscene amount of money, which probably would have put him in maybe third in the highest list of Liverpool's players. had he joined. Paying 20 million premium on top of that, and then the agent fees, which we're led to believe wouldn't have been too dissimilar from had he signed as a free agent anyway. So City, getting him for 20 million as the headline figure looks good for them, but it's cost them a lot more than that, and that is why Liverpool ultimately didn't get involved in that and thought that Jeremy Jacquet, 60 million for 6 months down the line, was a better option. We'll see, but I still feel Liverpool could have been a bit more proactive earlier in the window, knowing that you're relying on someone like Joe Gomez to stay fit and available when the last decade has proven that he's never really been able to do that for a long period of time.
Szoboszlai started 31 games this season and only 6 of them have been at right back. So, yeah, actually hasn't played that often. Though.
But how often has he moved to right back in games?
There's been that many, to be honest.
It just feel like it has happened a lot, I think.
I guess he is the natural replacement when you've got no right backs, it would appear, or he's emerged as that. Is that fair?
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Another option who could play there, and did play there, I think, earlier in the season, is Curtis Jones. He has not had as many minutes recently as he did not so long ago. He was asked, Arne Slot was asked about Curtis Jones in his press conference the other day. I think he's got 18 months left on his contract, and he wasn't really drawn on him, but he did stop short of saying stuff to the effect of, Curtis Jones is a really important player to this team. We want to keep him at all costs, or we really want to keep him. He didn't take that tone at all, did he? Which makes me ask the question, is there a chance that they may decide to cash in on him in the summer?
Well, what was interesting was, obviously, the story comes out about Inter's approach on Friday night. I had a couple of conversations with people about it. It wasn't one of those that was denied, as in, that isn't true. But it was made clear that Liverpool want to keep the player. And, that was eventually something that Slot confirmed, didn't he? He said, he didn't say, he sort of hinted the contract talks were maybe underway with Curtis, who was 18 months left on his deal. And, from a couple of things me and Doyle have heard sort of privately, might be some suggestion that Curtis and his team are happy to speak about a new deal and are maybe angling for that. But the Inter one was a surprise. I suppose Liverpool don't really have a say in who contacts them over players. The only thing they can say is we're not interested in selling Curtis Jones, and that was essentially what happened. But the fact that they have been in touch with Liverpool suggests that there may have been a few little conversations behind the scenes that maybe they felt they would have been able to have taken Curtis to Serie A. Now, it was never going to happen on loan. But what it does do is, if there's no real progress on contract talks between now and the summer, then I'd suggest that he's going to come in for a lot of speculation this summer, Curtis Jones, which is a little bit of a surprise. I hope he does sign a new contract, and I hope Liverpool don't sort of take it for granted that he's a homegrown, Scouse player who's playing for his boyhood club, because we've seen perhaps that's happened in the past with Trent Alexander-Arnold, and look where they've ended up with that. So, yeah, let's wait and see on this one.
So, I guess what you mean there is in terms of the type of deal that they offer him in order to try and retain his services, whereas he might look at some of his colleagues and say, well...
Yeah, I mean, Slot hinted, didn't he, that he's played a lot of minutes, but he would have liked to have played more. And I think that's always been a sticking point. But I think Curtis is probably in a position now where there's 4 midfielders going into 3 positions, really, maybe 5 if you sort of moving Florian Wirtz into the central position for the long term. And he's probably as close as he's ever been to being a regular at this point. So if he does choose to move on this summer, then it feels like he's got to this point and then decided, enough's enough and he's going to move on. So I hope not. But I'd certainly want to keep an eye on over the summer, I'd guess, if there's been no breakthrough in negotiations between now and then, and we know that, these things don't happen overnight, do they?
Do you think that's something that's very much up in the air, like it's far from being decided, not just in terms of a contract, but in terms of, say, how much he plays in the second part of the season, how influential he is on this team? Because there's a lot of changing going on. There's a lot of moving parts. Ibrahima Konate looks like he'll probably leave at the end of the season because he still hasn't agreed a new deal. Andy Robertson's going to be out of contract. Could have gone to Spurs, but obviously common sense has prevailed and he stayed. And I just wonder with Jones if it's just a case of, well, let's see how the rest of the season goes
Well, we're well into the second part of the season now. There's only 3 months left, which is good. It's been on forever this season. Talking about Curtis, talking about minutes, he started 7 of the last 10 Premier League games. I know he hasn't started the last couple, but just overall, he's not been available for 5 games, whether he's been rested or he had a slight injury. And the only game this season otherwise that he's not appeared in was the 0-0 at Arsenal, where he just didn't get off the bench. So, in terms of his minutes, Gorst is right. He's never played as much probably this season as any other. You probably might go back to the 2021 season where he had a spell in the team when everybody was injured, but that was not on merit, whereas this is, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He's spoken this season about he wants to be a future captain of Liverpool. Well, you can't do that if you're playing Inter Milan. So I think it is probably a bit of positioning in terms of trying to get himself the best new contract possible. And the reality is he's a regular player for a team that's finished in the top 3 in the Champions League table, won the Premier League, Premier League, well, they won the table, but they won the Premier League Championship as well last season. Still compete for the Champions League, could win it this year. And that, you know, he's already won trophies as a Liverpool player. And with the City game coming up, I think you'll find that against Manchester City, he tends to play rather well when he starts, and I wouldn't be surprised if he starts against Man City for that reason.
Yeah, and I still think there's an element of him being underrated, actually, Curtis Jones. I think he's played 200 games now for Liverpool, which in this era, when you think of how good Liverpool have been, that, you know, that's no mean feat, is it? And you think of when he made his breakthrough into the team sort of at the beginning of this decade now, it's, you know, he's been a part of a team that's won everything, you know. 2 Premier Leagues. Okay, the first one he wasn't massively involved. He sort of gets in the team towards the end of the season when the league's already been done. But I think he got a winner's medal that season. He certainly got one last year, FA Cup, Carabao Cup. So he's been part of a really successful era at Liverpool and is an important figure. Just because he's not playing 90 minutes every single week, it doesn't mean that he's not valued and important. And I get that he might want to play a little bit more than he is, but like Dory says there, 7 of the last 10 starts. There was a period there, but it was maybe 4 or 5 games in a row when it was looking like he was really cementing his place. And it's always going to be tough to do that in midfield for Liverpool. But I think he's as close as he's ever been now to, you know, on the team sheet week in, week out. So why would he want to sort of get to that stage and then decide that enough's enough and move on?
He only turned 25 last week, and because he's a player who's never been reliant on his pace. I don't know more about ball control, which his critics would say that's his problem, and his supporters would say that's his positive about his game, his ability to keep hold of the ball.
It's a split opinion.
Exactly, yeah.
Because he looks after it so well,
exactly,
doesn't he?
Yeah, that's the
thing. Never scared of him losing
ask his teammates. I think Ryan Gravenberg said recently, he said, look, you give the ball to Curtis and he hardly ever loses it. And his passing percentage, completion rate is very good. And we're not talking like a centre-back who passes it left or right to another centre-back. We're talking a progressive player. That's what he is. And he's only just turned 25. And because of all of that, he's a player who could play for another 7-8 years at that level. So why on earth would you... Liverpool quite clearly would want him to stay. And then you're looking at Curtis and go, well, could Alexis McAllister be on his way in the summer? We've spoken about this several times. You know, he's had a bit of a drop-off this season, although he's been a bit better recently, and he's had his own injury problems. But Curtis is a player who can do a job in a number of positions, and Liverpool would want someone like that in the team. You've got to bear in mind there are very few players who play for Premier League winning teams who play every single week. Go back and have a look at Liverpool last season. There are probably about 3 or 4 outfield players, that is. I mean, actually, probably say a few more than that. But generally speaking, you need players like that. Go back to like your era, the 70s.
Steady on.
when they were winning. Even then, there were players who didn't play absolutely every single week, but ended up playing about 25, 30 games. You know, that's a key part of a team winning the title. I've said it so many times, or winning trophies. It isn't just about the 11 that are on the pitch. It's about the whole squad. But Curtis is definitely in the core of 13 or 14 players who play almost all the time. And it might not, if he carries on the way he's going, it might not be long before he's in that 11 where he's one of the first names on the team sheet.
At the start of the show, I referred to you both as the deck of Liverpool FC Discourse. The Torval and Dean of this Liverpool side currently are Hugo Ekitike and Florian Wirtz.
These 90s references just keep getting more obscure.
Well, I've tied this in with the opening of the Winter Olympics today.
So what year was it that they won?
I'm gonna.
98?
I think it's 1986.
It's 1984.
Oh. Is it that old?
Wow. Yeah, it's 42 years ago.
Jeez.
Well, I was 3 years old, so apologies.
Wasn't even born.
Exactly.
For that one. But I hope you enjoyed it.
I was there.
After you'd finished work.
Yeah.
Hugo Ekitike and Florian Wirtz have really started to strike up a bit of a partnership now. And Wirtz has more recently sort of moved into that more central area, which I'm very pleased about. Are they, in a nutshell, are they the key to beating Manchester City on Sunday?
Yeah, they could very well be, couldn't they? You know, combined for 6 goals this season, which is one more than any other partnership in the Premier League, which is Haaland and Doku, who won't be on the pitch on Sunday, will he? Because I think he's injured.
Yeah, Doku's injured, yeah.
That's good news.
It is, yeah. I mean, he's been really good the last couple of times he's played at the Etihad, at least, maybe not so at Anfield. I can't really remember if he featured last season, but yeah, Ekitike and Wirtz building up a really encouraging partnership, and they've needed to, because Mo Salah's been in and out. He's been in AFCON. He's been, sort of raging against the machine, hasn't he? And Hugo Ekitike, Alexander Isak has been sidelined with that broken leg. So Ekitike and Wirtz have really stepped up in the last few weeks, and at the ages of 22 and 23, it's really encouraging what they're doing at the moment. So more of the same, keep it going, and then when the cavalry arrives with Isak's return, whenever that may be, Liverpool hopefully start to look like a bit of a force that a lot of people were expecting when the transfer window closed on September the 1st.
I think one of the key points with in particular Ekitike, but Wirtz as well, is we've had a number of games this season. We've sat here normally after an unsatisfactory result and moaned about the games being boring, play being so slow, and not really being much of a spectacle. But Ekitike had people off the seats the other day against Newcastle, and so did Wirtz in a different way. But obviously Ekitike takes the headlines because he scored 2 brilliant goals, and isn't that exactly what Liverpool have been crying out for? Just someone who can literally excite the crowd, and then they can feed off their energy.
Yeah, but I don't think there was any doubt. Personally speaking, no doubt about those two. You saw Ekitike straight away was going to play in the Premier League, and it's fine. And Wirtz is such a good footballer. Once he got used to it, he will do. The good news for Liverpool is that it's happened when Alexander Isak's unavailable, because obviously he's somebody that put a lot of stock and a lot of money, and they would have expected him to have been available more than he actually is. And it was just when he started to show a bit more himself that he got injured at Tottenham. So the pair of them have stepped up. It's the fact that the pair of them have combined so well. It's something that they probably weren't expecting to this level, I think, purely because they would have expected it to be Isak rather than Ekitike. So it's a welcome bonus for Liverpool. But good players can always play with good players. It's as simple as that. They find a way to make it work. Whether Wirtz has been on the left or he's been more central, the interesting thing for me is that it's mainly been Ekitike setting up Wirtz for goals rather than the other way around, which does, I think, has been slightly overlooked. Is that shows that further down the line, maybe Ekitike can play with Isak because he can assist players. He played with Marmoush, didn't he, Eintracht Frankfurt, and they kind of share the goals and the assists that way. So he's an unselfish player, Ekitike, but very much in the mould of a striker, whereas I think Wirtz is more in the mould of a player who, again, you ask his teammates, the players who play with him now and the players who played with him in the past and the ones who were with him in Germany, to go, wow, he's a proper footballer in the sense that he can do stuff that most other players can't. He sees the game a different way. And it's one thing seeing the game a certain way, because I'm sure we've all kicked a ball around and gone, right, I want to do this. It's then being able to do it. And, the amount of times he's been getting it right, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, is the difference probably now to the first few months of the season is that when he's given the ball to his teammates, they're actually putting it in the net rather than hitting the post or missing or putting it wide or whatever, because he's created that many chances. And while it's like on social media, people like were going, he's not done. People are obsessed with the stats and the numbers. They weren't watching the games properly, whereas we were all watching them properly, and we could all see this fella's going to be pretty amazing, and it's not taking very long for him to start being that.
I think too much credence gets given to stuff like that? Like you just mentioned there about all the daft stuff on social media about it, and it sort of fed into the certainly in Germany. I remember during the international breaks in September and October, and it seemed like everyone was coming out to defend them when no one had actually really criticised them, apart from on social media, where it's never really the best level of discourse, is it?
No, it's not. And Virgil van Dijk did an interview, didn't he, this week, where he basically, he's hinted at it a few times actually recently, and I just come out and basically blatantly said it, saying, but this was more aimed at ex-professionals, wasn't it, who were mostly working for betting websites, and we're guilty of taking their stuff, but we try not to go down the sensationalistic routes that they do.
I read it in terms of more like something Roy Keane might say, that Sky clip up and it goes viral with it.
I think it's the same. It's the same thing though, isn't it? Because we might take it, well, not us personally, but a media outlet of our standing might take it as well, and it's a bit cheap, I think. This is going to sound rich. People will be listening to this go, what are you talking about? You work for the Echo, you work for the company you work for, and they do this, that, and the other. Everybody's guilty of it in some way. But the ex-professionals do have a responsibility to not go down that route, because they were players themselves. They know what these younger players, what Van Dijk was talking about. He knows what they're having to cope with. I mean, we've spoken before about journalism saying, I'm glad I'm not starting now because you have to deal with all social media, which is what we didn't have when I was first starting. It's one thing if people want to say my stuff's rubbish and call me this, that, and the other, but I'm nearly 70 now, so so I can cope with it.
I'm sorry, and you guys wouldn't know how to send a match report on a carrier pigeon.
This is the thing, is they wouldn't know what a copy taker is. You know what I mean? It's like longhand, that kind of thing. Should have, and even shorthand as well. Yeah, they wouldn't even know what that is. Yeah. So things change, but what hasn't changed is the fact that when young footballers come into the team, they're always scrutinised. However, possibly in the old days, I think people were far more likely to give them a bit more of a chance than they are now, because people just don't seem to have the patience. And that's one thing if you're a supporter who's paying money, certainly to watch them or get the merchandise, whatever, and you're entitled to your view. But if you're a former professional footballer, certainly you've played for that team, and then you're coming out with stuff that you're just saying for, to try and get a bit of a fume on, it's probably a little bit irresponsible. And go back to what I was saying before, is that when we see stuff like that, or I see stuff like that, if it's not justified, I just ignore it. So we wouldn't do that.
To that very token then, could the same be said of some of the criticism of Arne Slot, who has come in for fierce criticism and has been criticised in this room as well. But when you look at the bigger picture, is he just dealing with a lot of different moving parts in a team that's, whether you like it or not, has ended up in a transition? And does he need to be cut a little bit of slack as a result of that?
Yeah, you can make that point. The one thing I would say is Liverpool, he just hasn't been able to figure out how to counteract teams who are going to launch the ball into the box via long throws, corners and set pieces, and that has been their undoing all season, really, and it has been for a while, probably around about a year now. I seem to remember him saying Manchester United, when was it a goalless draw? No, 2-2 draw, wasn't it? Yeah. He said United changed the way they play against us, and he's kept saying that a lot, and it almost sounds like it's become a bit of an excuse, like he's surprised that other teams are playing to counteract Liverpool's strengths. So there's been some failings coaching-wise, of course there has, but then again, it's like anything else, isn't it? Everything is just ramped up to the nth degree these days. People who shout the loudest want to be heard, and there has been some criticism which has veered in towards disrespect. And that's something that Virgil van Dijk said to Gary Neville, something he said to us in Marseille recently, and but there are things that Slot needs to get right this season. There are mitigating factors, of course there are, but at the moment Liverpool are sixth. This time last season they were top, and if they don't get in the Champions League, then it's huge. It's going to have a knock-on effect for a number of years, considering the amount of sort of rebuilding that still needs to go on, and the importance of Champions League money to Liverpool's whole way of operating.
I feel like this is the crux of the issue as well. If Liverpool don't qualify for the Champions League, they miss out on millions of pounds. So there's a lot riding on it. Okay, if you buy a footballer who's £160 million and he's not as good as you think he is, there's a lot riding on that. If you pay to go to a football match and you pay a fortune and you spend £100 in the day because everything costs so much and they don't win, then you're not happy about it, right? So it's almost like the patience that's used to exist within football as a culture, perhaps, and it was always been a bit fickle. Let's be honest, but it's almost like everything's amplified to the 9th degree because of how much money's now involved.
The only thing I'd say on that is I watch rugby league and they don't get paid anywhere near as much and tickets aren't as much, and it's exactly the same there. So I don't think it's anything to do with the money.
You just think it's general
people
madness.
I think it's madness. It's just general. This is just society at the moment. It'll change in the next 20 years because it always does. It never stays the same. So I don't know what it's going to be like in 20 years.
It's got very philosophical
today,
haven't we?
But that's what it's like now. That's just, and that's what Van Dijk's on about, saying, well, we can control it now, so these former professionals need to rein it in a little bit.
I'm going to meet him halfway. I think he's right. Some of them like to pile in. I do think, on the other hand, they're also being asked for an opinion, and
well, what he said,
the players are happy to take the praise when they get it, but it's a two-way street.
Well, no, he didn't say that.
Well, I don't believe him.
But what he said was that you can be criticised, and that's fine, but he says, but there's a line, and they're just going too far because they're serving their own ends with some of the stuff that they're saying.
I'd love to know the specifics of what he's thinking about when he says this answer, because I do think it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I can tell you he was not happy one bit with the question that got asked to Slot about Xabi Alonso in Marseille. That was a strange one. And Van Dijk said after the game to us that that was disrespectful. But when he's talking about the ex-pros, it's on Match of the Day, for example, it seems fairly reasonable. The assessment of games, sometimes it's not on other organisations. I don't know. I'd just like to know the specifics of what he was getting at, because I think he does have a point.
Well, didn't Ruud Hoy have a pop at him?
But the thing is, the weird thing about the Dutch people with Van Dijk is that I don't even want to get into this. We could be here all day. I just don't understand it. But this is nothing new. Gerard Houllier when he was manager, was always going about why is there so many former Liverpool players doing punditry? Yeah. They're always having a go at us, kind of thing. So it's probably what United think now. They've got quite a few of their former players are quite prominent in the punditry, but that's just what comes from having played or been a successful club, and then you've had these players who've gone on to do this because people value their opinion. It's about what Van Dijk's probably just arguing about is that it is these people. That's the whole problem. These opinions are valued, but when they are then sometimes falling into the trap of just being very cynical about it, then that's where the issues lie, because he's not saying don't criticise us. He says that's part and parcel of the game. When you become a footballer, or you want to become a footballer, what's the most popular thing we ever publish? Player ratings. That is literally a critique, and often just one that's done off the top of your head when you've just watched it, and it's hardly the most analytical of critiques, but people want to know because they like to debate these kind of things. But I'm pretty sure, I do the player ratings most of the time. I don't give players 1s and 0 just because they get beat. There have been people in the past who do things like that at other publications.
I have seen that.
But I just think that's a little bit, again, that's another version of just playing.
It takes away the importance of it,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And I think there's a little bit of that. And I think because he's older and he's seen it all, he's like, well, I can cope with this, but it's not very fair on these youngsters.
What's the lowest mark you've ever given?
2.
A 2?
No, yeah, 2. Can
I guess who it is?
You can have a guess.
I might know.
Go on.
Is it Alberto Moreno?
He was one of the players.
Europa League fan.
Yeah, he's one of the ones. There have been a couple of other
Now, there is
twos.
a left back, I wouldn't play it right back. Just to clarify.
Play it left back.
There have been. He blocked me on social media in the end.
Did he? Yeah.
I felt a bit bad actually. I felt, I probably deserved that.
You piling on these young players.
He was
doom scrolling.
It was the following year.
So
if he's listening, which I know he does listen to the Blood Red podcast all the time, I apologise, Alberto.
Formal apology to Alberto.
We apologise for Ian Doyle's 2 rating there.
Tim Cahill's also blocked me, but that's for a completely different reason.
Who did, sorry?
Tim Cahill.
Oh, Tim Cahill.
Everton.
Well, no loss there.
Anyway, move on.
Apologies, Alberto. To make it up to you, if we can...
I know where this is going.
If we can pull together £3.50, we may send you a complimentary copy. If you send us your address. I know he was at Villarreal.
He was, yeah.
I don't mind taking it to him personally. The latest edition of the Blood Red podcast newspaper is out. Hugo Ekitike is the poster boy on the front there, and that looks very much like another bit of 80s nostalgia there. The Liverpool 4, Everton 4 FA Cup match replay. Afterwards, Kenny Dalglish resigned.
No, I was at that one. Yeah.
You were at that one.
I was at that one. Yeah.
I found out in craft design technology class the next day when the caretaker Cliffy, who's now passed away, ran into the room.
There's our death reference anyway.
There we go. Yeah, God bless Cliffy. Yeah. Dalglish still going strong. This is on sale now. £3.50. You can buy it locally in the Merseyside area in stockists or online, and the link to buy it online is in the description box below.
You found out the score, or you found out Dalglish had resigned?
I knew the score.
I was going to say that was
back in the day. Just to set the scene for our younger viewers. Listening to the match on like Radio City or Radio Merseyside was an absolute rite of passage. The likes of Graham Beecroft or Kevin Keaton, just in your ears. They were like, they were like an uncle, I would say, in a way, one you'd never met. A estranged uncle.
I was sat next to in front of me was half the McGann family for that game.
Was she?
Yeah.
As in the acting fans.
Yes,
yeah. What was that soap that used to be on a Saturday that everyone loved? One of the McGanns was in it.
Crossroads?
I don't know.
No,
that wasn't Saturday. How could it be a soap if it's only on a Saturday?
It was like a sitcom, I should say.
One of them's in
The Upper Hand, is it? Is it The Upper Hand?
Might have been The Upper Hand. It was like a family.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah.
I'll find out for
anyway,
next
we're
episode.
getting off topic.
I have gone off topic a little bit there. Let's get back to Sunday. Atmosphere, okay? Which was a hit for Russ Abbott in the 80s.
That's
unbelievable.
Awful. Awful. Can we give you a red card?
You can. We'll give me a 2 out of 10. Like Alberto.
Please block me on social media.
It's got a real flair for weaving in dated references.
I told you I had this Friday feeling, didn't I? It's infectious. I'm not on anything, honestly. I've had some rocks.
Come on.
That's
down that road. Come on.
Okay, Atmosphere has been up and down at Anfield this year. It was good against Newcastle eventually, I think. Not everyone agreed with that, by the way, but I was in the middle of the cop and I thought it was good. And this type of game is the type of one where it doesn't really take a lot to get fans motivated to get behind the team. Despite the fact that everyone on the pitch is a millionaire, City are sort of positioned as the money-rich club with infinite resources. Liverpool the force for good. Make whichever side of the coin you sit on, and make of that what you will. But I don't think it's going to take a lot to get the crowd up, and just how significant is that going to be in giving Liverpool the extra boost to try and get results here?
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those games where you can guarantee an atmosphere, isn't it? And United obviously one of them, Everton. The real big match feel to it, and I always remember Jurgen Klopp saying probably 8 years or so now, where he was saying everyone needs to bring the best face, and I think he even said the fella selling the hot dogs needs to be out on his A game, and that's the sort of atmosphere that Liverpool need, really. And they had it last year when City rolled into town, Liverpool win 2-0. Could have been a lot more, and ultimately it was pretty comfortable. They're going to need that again. Okay, they're not involved in a title race per se, but in a way, this Champions League race is probably even more important, really, certainly for the next few years. So, yeah, I think the atmosphere will be really good, and then it's on the players to respond to that, to feed off it, and let's see if Manchester City can handle it.
Joe McGann was in the upper hand, by the way. I just checked.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it was that.
Yeah.
Sort of same question to you in a way then, and I'm just interested to know how significant you think the crowd is in sort of helping a team that's been hot and cold all season, and I still don't know what this Liverpool team is actually capable of achieving in its current form, but is that going to make a difference?
Well, they've both got exactly the same Premier League record this year, 1-1, drawn 4, lost 1. That's, I think, in 2026. But Liverpool have already lost one of the last 16 games, and that was in the last minute from a bit of a fluky goal. So I think in that sense, Liverpool have regained a bit of what I'd say, not so much belief, but a little bit, I know it's going to sound a bit silly, but a little bit of the steel. They don't get beat, basically, is what I'm saying. They really
hard to beat.
Yeah, they've had when they went 9 out of 12. They lost 9 out of 12 games. That's a terrible run, no matter how you paint it. And I think we've said it many times that a lot of them were kind of in the balance games, but the two that really did it was PSV and Forest and PSV. and that came not long after they'd played City.
In a run, yeah.
So they'd played. That was before the international break, wasn't it? They came back and played those 2 games. So that was the, in terms of the actual on the field stuff, the lowest point of the season, and they have recovered since then. They do look a lot more like the team I would imagine Slot wanted. Obviously, we've mentioned the right back situation, but if you actually remove that from it, if you could pick Liverpool's first choice team, it's not going to be far off the team they're probably going to turn out against Man City on Sunday because of the players they got available. The problem will come. Then they got Sunderland a few days later away. Then they got Forest away. Then that's when the squad gets stretched a little bit. But for this game, they've had a full week to prepare for it. If you look at the game at Man City in November, wasn't it? They just come off the back of beating. Was it Real Madrid and Aston Villa? I think it was. Yeah. Aston Villa and Real Madrid. Sorry, that order. And they couldn't, because they didn't have the players available, they couldn't rotate, and it meant that they didn't really have the legs for it at that time because the other players who'd come in who knew they weren't settled as much as they are now. So I think they'd be able to cope with it all a bit better. Yeah, playing in front of the Anfield crowd, that'll give them an extra, we've seen it many times, an extra yard or two in terms of their actual game. And I think that could make a difference because, City's record at Anfield isn't particularly great, although, they lost last year. I think there was a couple of draws before that. But the funny thing is, what Guardiola's like, that the crowd is in his head in the sense that he knows what the Anfield crowd can do in this fixture. We saw with that video years ago when he was talking about Firmino, Salah and Mane, those front 3. If you did the same thing now again, he'd probably be talking about Wirtz because he tried to sign him. Yeah. But he'd also be talking about the crowd as well. And I don't think there'll be any problems with the atmosphere. I think even if Liverpool go a goal behind, I think it's changed so much. Funnily enough, in such a short space of time, those 2 games against Qarabağ and Newcastle, and it's the fact that there's 3 home games in a row, and so it doesn't feel as though it was ages ago. These games were literally like, the last one was, the most recent one was last week, and then the one was just a few days before that. So it feels as though there's a bit of momentum coming with their home performances as well. Obviously, City are a lot better than Qarabağ and a lot better than Newcastle, as we saw in midweek, but I do think that the crowd, if it all comes together, then you can just it could be a turning point. Not much a turning point to Liverpool's season, but a kind of a platform for what's to come because they do have the 2 very difficult away games to come after that. And you were talking before about Liverpool missing out on Champions League. Well, United have missed out on Champions League and Europe altogether, and they're the team that's above Liverpool in the table. And the last time Liverpool didn't qualify for the Champions League, the following season they won the league, last year. And then the season before, the last time before that they didn't qualify was 15-16. And then within 2 years they were in the final. And then the following year they won it. So I don't necessarily think that missing out on the Champions League for one season is that much of a problem. It's if it happens multiple times, which I think happened to Arsenal, was it? And then it took them a while to get back to where they were. So it obviously would be a lot better for Liverpool to be in the Champions League, and it still will be a massive disappointment. And will take a hit on the finances if they don't. But because they've got so many of these better players that they've signed in the past, last summer, none of them will be going anywhere, I don't think. So, and they've already got Xhaka coming in, so no matter what happens, I think next season you would expect more from them no matter where they finish this season. But that's next season, they have to deal with this now, and I think getting a good result against City in a good atmosphere could make a massive difference for the last 3 and a bit months.
The comparison of United, I'd agree with you. I don't think it's too bad to not be in it for one season, especially in terms of the fact that you play less games.
Yeah, well, they're not even in the Europa League, which has helped them. That's helped them. But Liverpool, like I said,
they've sacked 2 managers since then.
That's United though. Chelsea sacked managers. They just do that. That's what they do. City don't sack managers that often because they keep winning stuff. Simple as that.
Would Arne Slot not get sacked if Liverpool don't qualify for the Champions League?
Well, funny enough, I'm glad you mentioned that because obviously there was that Reds roundtable got broadcast released, I should say, this week, where it was Billy Hogan, the chief executive, Richard Hughes, the sporting director, Arne Slot sat around a table being interviewed. And why were these things? Obviously, it's a club thing, sponsored by Standard Chartered. It's going to mainly be, isn't everything great? It wasn't entirely that. They didn't completely ignore what's gone on over the past 6, 7, 8, 9 months.
Can't really.
Exactly.
Who was chairing it?
Vicky Gomez.
That's it, yeah.
Have you not seen her?
No.
You've not seen it?
Nope.
Liverpool fan. So basically, yeah. So they do the interview, and yeah, there were one or two things. My take on it is that if you were thinking about sacking your manager anytime soon, why on earth would you put him in front of that and do that?
Yeah,
I think
it was very much a.
It's like to
the people who've sort of wavered on Slot to various extents. It was very much a get on with it because this fella's not going anywhere. That was what it come across to me as.
I wrote a piece the following day saying more or less saying that. So kind of saying they've given the game away without actually saying it. And Richard Hughes was quite interesting on the terms of why they didn't send anybody the first season, although we could have waited out ourselves, to be honest. And then why they spent so much in the summer. I got the impression that they didn't really want to buy as many players as they did because they didn't want to get rid of as many as they did.
Everyone who left wanted to
leave.
Yeah,
exactly. That's the thing. So they thought they were being fair to these players, and I think possibly the experience this season suggests they might be a little bit more unfair, if that's the right phrase.
Yeah. I mean, he did it with Robertson, didn't he? I mean, they were open to talking to Tottenham because of who he is and his service, but ultimately it's right.
Yeah.
All hands on deck now, you're staying put.
Exactly, you sign a contract with us so we can keep it. I know they don't really, he doesn't always. It's not Winston Bohard at Chelsea where he just, you know what I mean? That's a massive extreme, but Liverpool are possibly now going to think of themselves first. But even with Robertson, they nearly considered letting him go because of all the the great service he's done. They didn't want to upset him too much. But and then of course they ended up playing the next game anyway.
You mentioned Liverpool were hard to beat. That was a hit for Hardfi in the 90s, just throw in as well.
2000s, come on.
Oh, too far? Oh, sorry.
You're just getting years mixed up now. Come on, you're aiding yourself here.
Correcting my own gags. I mean, what has it
They
come
performed
to?
at the 2012 FA Cup final before the game.
Did they?
Yeah.
Was that Liverpool-Chelsea?
Yeah.
Lost 1-0. It was raining.
2-1. Honestly, come on.
Yeah, all right.
I know your brain's
on the line, didn't he? Andy Carroll's second one.
That's the one where James Pearce stood up and celebrated, then took him a while to realise it hadn't gone in.
Oh. A bit like myself, except I wasn't in the press box. Well, after correcting me on my own gags, you'll be pleased to know I'm not here next weekend because I'm actually in Italy for a Serie A/Serie B weekend.
Scouting mission?
I'm going to...
ask about Leone, see what they think about him.
Well, I saw him on my last trip.
Tough,
he did, yeah.
I'm the only person to see, only one of the few Liverpool fans to have seen Leone play twice, and he didn't finish either game, unfortunately. So he hasn't got much down for him at the moment, unfortunately. But
it's just you stay away from him.
Or maybe that could be the bad luck. So I'm going to be in Pisa, then I'm going to be in Genoa, and then either Napoli or Turin. It's undecided yet because the Italians literally wait till the last minute to get their tickets out. Means I'm going to miss the Brighton game. I will obviously be keeping in touch with it, hopefully on my phone.
This is good, isn't it? This is good.
And to make sure I can get a good connection, I'll probably need a secure internet connection. So I'll probably use my NordVPN subscription. If you haven't got one, to get the best discounts off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/Blood Red. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee, and the link is in the podcast. Episode
you nearly got there.
Box
I think
below.
we'll let you off because it was such a good segue. You are the Segway king.
I've never ridden one. I've been on those scooters around town, though.
Have you?
Yeah. Sometimes I get one back from the match.
That's just bone idle.
It's not. Have you seen
that
bus
that
queue?
it is.
Yeah.
You walk it?
No.
Are we picking our teams? Or?
Well, that was my next segue until I segued into segues. So I'll just segue into team selections instead. Let's get this going. Gorsty, tell me your back four. You've got Alice in goal. I know you have. Tell me your back four.
Yeah, well, it's going to have to be Szoboszlai right back, I think. Kerkez, Ibu Konate and Virgil van Dijk.
One is in concurrence with my colleague.
Yes, I would also go with that for a clean sweep. So let's move into midfield quickly. Then I'll go with you, Doyley, first.
As much as I talked up Curtis, he probably won't play, will he? So it'll be McAllister, Gravenberch, and Wirtz as the numero 10.
Gorsty?
Yeah, I'm not sure what to do with Wirtz, whether to put him wide left and pack the midfield a little bit, or whether to put Gakpo in and put Wirtz centrally. He's got to play either way, hasn't he? Go on, I'll put him number 10. I'll have Gakpo on the wide left. I know you're not after me forward line, but that's the way it's going to shape up. And the other two in midfield will be Gravenberch and McAllister.
Okay, so pretty much what you had in midfield there.
We're all picking the same
midfield is the same, and I have a feeling we might end up with 3 teams identically. I've gone for the same.
Gakpo on the left, Salah on the right, and Ekitike down the middle.
Yeah.
I think, just looking slightly forward, is that I think Salah might not play against Sunderland, and I think that might be a change. Or if Gomez is back, Gakpo might not play. One of the 2 wide players won't play. There is a bit of scope for some change because they're going to have to change the team against Sunderland just to keep them fresh.
Any hope of Engomawa getting a bit of a chance there, or do you just think it's a little bit too early for chucking him in? Not against Man City, no. And I was thinking,
there's Brighton in the FA Cup. There you go. That's on Saturday.
Yeah, they'll start that. Yeah,
good shout. Okay, predictions, Ian.
You know what? I'm going to go with Liverpool to win 2-0.
I was actually going to say the same. Yeah.
Can I even tell a little secret? I think Ian Doyle has been inflicted with Friday feeling.
Friday feeling, yeah.
I do. 2-0. But that's a big show. I'm going to go 2-1. City are good, aren't they? But I'm feeling positive, and I think Liverpool can get back-to-back Premier League victories, which they certainly need. And I don't like to think too much about what would happen if they don't win, because they fall out if they're behind the pack.
Well, not if it's a draw. You could accept a draw. A defeat would be a bit nasty, though, wouldn't it?
Depends what happens with Chelsea and United.
Also, you can lose at home to Man City, can't you? Any team can do that.
You can.
There's nothing for Liverpool after.
Well, this is the other thing, isn't it? Going back to what we were talking about.
Well, there we go then. So the Echo has spoken. 3 predicted wins. Let's hope that comes to pass on Sunday. That is all from us today on this entertaining edition of the Blood Red
Extended
podcast.
edition.
My thanks to Ian Doyle, Paul Gorst, Albert Moreno, Torbil and Dean, Anton Deck, Hard Five, and Russ Abbott, and Joe McGann. Let's not forget him. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the curling and the luge if you're watching it over the weekend. We'll be at Anfield on Sunday. See you then.
You've been listening to the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.